Hey guys, welcome back. So today is the day after Christmas, and I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas and have a very happy and safe New Year. Now for me, Christmas came early because my P10 C showed up. And that is the new CZ striker fired pistol. This came in just before Christmas. This is the flat dark earth model. And yeah, these are actually starting to ship to distributors, so you'll be able to get your hands on them right around the first of the year, just as CZ promised, which is really good news. I wanted to come out this afternoon and do a little bit of shooting with the pistol because I haven't shot it since I've gotten it in. So you can see the gun's still brand spanking new. And this is the first new example I've had a chance to shoot. Now, when I went to the Czech Republic with Guns and Ammo and some of the international media, we were showing the P10 C, well, at least Guns and Ammo and I were, and we had a couple of hours to spend with the gun on the range. We didn't really get to shoot it a whole bunch, but the guns we were shooting were pre-production samples, and they were well used. And so I want to see how the trigger, for example, on a brand new gun, production gun, stacks up to the triggers we felt in the Czech Republic. I also want to talk about this gun and how it works with Glock holsters. I mentioned in my first video that the gun was compatible with Glock holsters, but you guys said, hey, show us. So let's do that this afternoon as well. Plus, I wanted to give you guys an idea of how it stacked up to guns like my old carry gun. This is my old Glock 19. This is a row bar copper custom gun I used to carry before switching over to the CZ P10 compact. And then also I wanted to compare it to another obvious choice, which is the CZ hammer fired gun, which is the P07. So we're going to start that evaluation process. I haven't had a chance to fire a new gun, a production gun, until now. The guns, again, are shipping out to distributors, so you should be able to see them on dealer shelves, but don't expect to get your hands on one right away. Unfortunately, I think these things are going to be fairly popular, especially given the price point. You're looking at less than 500 bucks for the handguns. Maybe initially they're going to go for a little bit more than that, but the pricing is very competitive. So now that I have a production sample gun, I can do a little bit more shooting. Again, I've only had a few hours with the guns in the past when I produced my first video. Now I have one in my possession. I can shoot the snot out of it. I can also subject it to the gauntlet, which I know many of you are waiting to see me do. But as you can see behind me, the remnants of that white stuff, that snow, up until yesterday, it's been in the negatives here, as low as 20 below zero. Christmas, we had a white Christmas, but you wouldn't be able to tell by the background because we had a nice 50-degree day today and a lot of rain, which has wiped out the 7 or 8 inches of snow that we had on the ground for Christmas. But it's cold, and doing the gauntlet tests in the winter, many of you would say would be unfair. If a gun passed, you would say it passed because of the temperature differences. If it failed, you would say it failed because of the temperature differences. So we're just holding off on those gauntlet tests until spring when it warms up a bit, and we can keep that playing field as level as possible. But yes, the P10 C will be going into that test, as will the P07. We've already done the Glock. There's a whole bunch of handguns we have on the roster, guys. We can only produce those videos so fast. So I want to be able to shoot the gun, get some more feedback to you guys, actual shooting of a production gun, and do a little bit of comparisons to other popular guns on the market to see how the P10 C is going to stack up. So without any more talking, let's move over to the firing line, load up some ammunition. I think I brought out some 124 grain Freedom munitions to shoot this afternoon, and just start banging away on some steel plates and see how the gun shoots and how it compares to some of the other popular carry guns that are out there. All right, guys, so I'm bringing you along for the very first range session with my new P10 C. I've not fired it yet, so this will be the first 15 rounds, which is how many rounds the magazine holds. First 15 rounds ever fired through this little pistol. Let's see how she does. 124 grain Freedom munitions, 9mm. Just good old range ammo. So far, I'm liking the way it shoots. I will say the trigger's just a wee bit different than the guns we shot in the Czech Republic, but it still is a very good trigger. We'll talk more about that here in a second. And she locks open just fine. All right, let's try another 15 rounds. Seems to be shooting straight to point of aim. I'm shooting a little steel target that's about 10 yards or so away. We'll do an over the shoulder camera angle if I can here in a few minutes. I'm trying to keep my camera dry because it's raining out here. Yeah, I mean, this sucker still shoots nice and flat. It's a very nice shooting little handgun. So that was the first 30 rounds to the gun. And as I expected from a CZ, flawless function. Take a look at my hand. I don't know if you guys can see that right in there. That texturing on the back strap is pretty aggressive. I'm not going to say it's hurting, but I could definitely notice it. But as a positive, it's staying planted in my hand. But as a negative, some of you guys may find that to be uncomfortable. Let's see how it goes after firing a few hundred rounds this afternoon. That was just the first 30 rounds. I won't say it's painful at all, but the gun definitely stays planted in your hand. And that texturing is pretty aggressive. I'd say it's pretty much back here anyway. You'll see it's a tighter pattern than it is on the sides. It's kind of like an RTF type pattern back here, but sets nice and deep in the hand, just as I remember. Let's load up some more magazines, do some more shooting with it. The P10 C's magazine is very similar to the P07's magazine. All right, here's the P07, and you'll notice that the P10 C magazine fits into and works in the 07 just fine. The same can't be said of the 07's magazine in the P10 C. So if I take an 07 magazine, which I have here, and stick it into the P10 C, it won't lock in because it doesn't have that cut in the front that is required for the P10 C's ambi magazine release. So this orange follower denotes the P10 C's magazine. You'll notice it has that cut right here in the front that the P07 magazine does not have. So again, the P10 C magazine works in the P07. The P07 magazine does not work in the P10 C. Going forward, I'm told all P07s will have the same magazine as the P10 C shipped with them, so they will all come with that front cut. Will they all have the orange follower? I don't know, but right now that's a quick and easy way to tell them apart. So how does the P10 C stack up against the Glock 19? Well, the P10 C is a slightly bigger handgun. Not a whole lot bigger, but just a little bit. Let me see if I can hold these two where they're pretty evenly matched and give you an idea. Okay, so the P10 C is right here by my finger that's tapping, and then the Glock is on the other side. So you can see that the guns are fairly closely matched in terms of size, but the P10 C is just a wee bit longer in the back section down here where my pinky is. The grips with the magazines inserted are roughly the same size. Let me see if I can get the guns lined up here. You'll notice that the P10 C has the polymer come down further, which covers up the magazine, where the Glock, the polymer is cut back here, but the magazine sticks down. But with the magazines inserted, the guns are close, but again, the P10 C is just a little bit bigger. It's not as big as a Glock 17, but it's just a scotch bigger than the 19. With the magazines out, the guns are noticeably different, more so because of the P10 C's overhang of the grip. So I'm gonna pop the mags out here really quick. And this is that overhang I'm talking about right here. So it kind of protects the back end of the magazine. The Glock doesn't have that. So when you take the mags out, now you can get an idea of just how much shorter the Glock 19 is from the polymer. All right, it looks like it's really short there, but you put those magazines back in and things start to even out just a little bit. But again, the CZ is just a scotch bigger. Put the magazines back in and put them back side by side here one more time. And there you guys go. That should give you an idea of the size of the pistols as best as I can. All right. All right, let's see how well the P10 C shoots on its first range session in my hand. Downrange, a little over 45 yards away, is a little paint can sitting on a post down there. Let's see if I can hit it with one of the 124 grain Freedom munition rounds. Oh, check that out, guys. 13 rounds left in the magazine. 14th round in the chamber, and number 15 plowed that paint can down range. I'd say the sights are on for me. Just a very shootable gun. The more I shoot this thing, the more I love it. It's a lot of fun. If you guys are curious about how the P10 C feels, but you don't have one at your local gun shop yet, I'm sure you can probably find an 07 laying around somewhere, which is the compact hammer-fired pistol that CZ produces. They're a little bit easier to find than the 75 series guns. Now here's the P10 C, and here is the 07. I'm going to put them side by side so you can get an idea of what the height over the bore axis is, the height over hand of the bore axis, which a lot of you guys have commented about. See if we can line them up here. Now, even though the P10 C, which is right here, even though the P10 C has traditional rails, it doesn't have the inverted rails, it still maintains that low bore axis, okay? It's really not much different than the 07. The 07 definitely has a taller frame here, but look how short the slide is as compared to the P10 C. So CZ has gone out of its way to keep that slide profile very low, even though they're using conventional rails on the handgun, so it still sets nice and deep. And that's about the only way I can show you guys, give you a visual, is to compare it to the 07, which you can find at your local gun shop. Now the grips, while they use the same magazines, are still a little bit different. All right, so let's take a look at the 07 first. The 07 uses the same mag, obviously, but it's a little bit blockier feeling than the P10 C. If you pick it up at a gun shop, it'll give you an idea of what they feel like, but to me, the P10 C's grip is a little bit more rounded and doesn't have as much dead air space that I feel around the grip. You can see that it's more contoured right here, all right? And instead of a dovetail, you just have an overhang and the slide comes back. Sets nice and deep in your hand. When you push down on it, it gives a nice firm grip to the pistol so you can seat nicely and index off the gun in a holster, but still has that low profile, all right? Still has that texturing up there that you'll find in the 07s. So they're somewhat similar, but not exactly the same in terms of feel. But if you want to get an idea of the size and the general feel of the P10 C, if you're thinking about ordering one offline or something, grab an 07 and it'll give you kind of an idea of what the P10 C is going to feel like. Let's talk about those holsters here really quick. So I have two Kydex holsters here. One of them is a black point hybrid holster. It has leather on the sides and then Kydex in the front and rear. It's just a standard Kydex holster that has its attachment points that are done via cowhide leather. And then this is a Raven-esque type holster. I'm not sure who made it. Has the Copper Custom logo on it, but it's just a standard Kydex holster. I don't keep leather holsters around, straight up leather holsters, so I'm going to assume that they're going to be of similar function. All right, so let's start off with the black point holster. Glock 19 locks in, doesn't fall out. You can see about where it comes down. Glock 17 will fit in here as well. Gun doesn't fall out. All right, let's take the Glock out. Take the P10 C and put it in. And again, it doesn't fall out, fits perfectly, and comes to about the same point in the holster as the Glock 19 did. Fits nice and snug. All right, so this is that Raven-esque holster. Let's take the Glock 19. Fits in nicely, nice and snug. You can hear it rattling a little bit, but the gun doesn't fall out. And the P10 C locks in. I think it rattles even a little bit less, but doesn't fall out of the holster. Works nicely. So obviously CZ is going directly at the Glock marketplace with the P10 C. I think they purposely designed it to work with Glock holsters, and I think they did that probably because they're going to be targeting the law enforcement community pretty heavily with the pistol. I think their slogan, which I was surprised to see, is improving upon perfection or something like that. I mean, they couldn't make it any more clear. They're targeting the Glock audience with the P10 C. How well it's going to fare, only time will tell. My initial impressions, obviously, the handgun are pretty darn favorable, but I need to shoot it quite a bit more before I actually say, yep, I would recommend it over a Glock. If you guys have been following the channel for a while, you'll know that one of the reasons I moved away from the Glock 19 and striker-fired pistols in general, although they're not all the same, but the reason I moved away from the Glock 19 was because it was a very cold winter, pretty much like what we had a few weeks ago here with negative 20 degrees, and I had started wearing gloves, which isn't something I normally do, and here are the gloves I purchased. These are some outdoor research gloves, and these are rated to, I think, 20 below, which is a good rating because that's about how cold it's been here lately. And I went to shoot my Glock 19, and this has been a couple years ago, and I pulled my Glock 19 out after shooting some video, and I had my brand new outdoor research gloves on, and this is what I found. I found that when I went to stick my finger in the trigger guard, as I tried to force my finger in, you'll notice it starts to push back on the trigger. That opening right there in the Glock isn't large enough for these gloves to be safely used, in my opinion, with my Glock. Because if I force my finger in there to get to the trigger, I'm actually taking that first safety off, the dingus on the trigger, and I'm starting to ever so slightly push the trigger back when I push my finger in. So, let's see how the P10 C fares. Now you'll notice that the P10 C has more room here in front of the trigger. So with the same outdoor research gloves, I can safely put my finger on into the trigger guard. I can actually get it through into the trigger guard where I can't with my Glock without actually pushing the trigger. So you can see that this is a bit better than the Glock. Now keep in mind, there are other striker-fired handguns out there that have larger trigger guards. So it's not like the P10 C special in that regard, but it is better than the Glock 19 if you're wearing winter gloves. Thought that was an interesting point, and I was kind of curious about that myself. Well guys, it's time to head home and tie things up after my first range session with my new P10 C 9mm CZ pistol. So what do I think after my first range day with the production gun? Well, it pretty much mirrors what I thought of it after I'd spent a few hours with it previously in the Czech Republic and here on my home range when CZ USA had brought up the one and only gun in the country at the time up for me to finish my video. The gun shoots very, very well. Its ergonomics are spot on. The sights are good. The recoil is just like pretty much any other 9mm striker-fired pistol on the market. You know, if you're looking for a 9mm handgun that just simply blows away the competition, that isn't going to happen. It's going to boil down to personal preferences. Now, things like grip angle and how it feels in your hand. For example, the Glock. A lot of people find the Glock to be uncomfortable. Heck, I love the things, and I found the guns to be uncomfortable when I first started shooting them. It was an acquired taste. After I got used to how thick the gun was and the slightly awkward grip angle, after I got used to all that, I became quite the fan of Glocks, and I can hit pretty much anything that I could see with them. So, you know, if you're looking for a vastly superior gun to the Glock, you're probably not going to find it in the P10 C if you're hardcore committed to the Glock 19 or Glock 17 or whatever. If you're looking for something that's perhaps a bit more ergonomic, another alternative to the Glock, you're looking to venture out and step away from the Glock like a lot of us have that have been shooting them for decades, the P10 C is right up top, guys. So much so it's going to fit in your Glock holster. Now, I will say, out of the box, I think that the P10 C has a better trigger than most every other striker-fired handgun on the market. I will say that the PPQ I still think reigns supreme. The pre-production samples I had shot had been well used, and the triggers were a little bit lighter than the production sample I have here. That's not to say this is not an incredible trigger. It is. It's right up there with the PPQ, the VP9, and other striker-fired pistols that have really good triggers. Now, I expect this trigger to smooth out and shoot more like the guns that I had shot previously in the Czech Republic that had several thousand rounds through them. Heck, after 300 rounds out here or so this afternoon, I can already tell the triggers lightening up and some of that little plasticky creep. It's not very pronounced, but it was just not quite right, and not what I'd felt on the previous guns. That had already disappeared. So the gun's already starting to shape up. No issues, no malfunctions, shooting 124 grain Freedom munitions. And what can I say, guys? I think this thing's gonna be a great alternative for people out there looking for something other than a Glock, something other than the Springfield XD, or something other than the M&P. Now, you'll notice I don't feature those other guns on the channel all that often. I don't really like the XD. I don't like guns with grip safeties. I love the 1911, it gets a pass, but it's just dumb. Of all the things that they could have copied from the 1911, the grip safety to me was just one of the dumbest. It's a huge ingress point for debris, and it's just totally unnecessary. So I'm not a fan of the XDs, and I don't even think I own one right now. I've owned them in the past, and I sold them all. The Glock, it's going to be a straight-up competitor, guys, especially at the price point it's coming in at. I think its biggest hurdle will be the fact that CZ won't be able to meet demand. If you take a look at their CZ 75 lines, those guns are hit or miss if you can find them in the gun shop. They're so popular that once they arrive, when they get a container of them, they send them out to distribution. Within weeks, they're all gone, and we're waiting months for more of them to show up. I think that's probably going to be the case with the P10 C. I think it's going to be so popular, given its sub $500 price point, that a lot of people are going to be trying it to see how it compares to their beloved Glocks or other striker-fired pistols that they may like. Now, I can't comment on the reliability of the handgun. Had no malfunctions out here today, but I've yet to stick the thing in the sand, dirt, mud, and water. And like I said earlier, we'll do that later in the year. So far, impressions of the handgun are really good. Spot on, great ergonomics, great price point, lightweight, low bore axis. You know, you can't ask for anything more in the handgun. This one's the flat dark earth model. It's more of a sand color. They will also have a gray with a threaded barrel. They'll have suppressor height night sights on those as well. And of course the black model that I had showcased initially when I was in the Czech Republic. So they're already coming to market with 3 different guns, 3 different colors and options, which is also nice. So if you're in the market for a new 9mm polymer frame striker-fired pistol, check out the P10 C if you get a chance. If you guys have any questions about anything you've seen in this video, you can ask those questions down below. I do try to stick around for the first couple of days after a video goes live to answer the questions you guys may have. Also, if you haven't already, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. If you would like to support the Military Arms channel and all of our efforts here, you can do so by swinging by and checking out Copper Custom. And if you haven't already, please check out full30.com. That's full30.com. We've taken all the web's best firearms content creators and brought them under one roof, and that is full30.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for all those years of support. Have a happy and safe new year, and I'll talk to you guys soon.